Let's get in one more voice. Sashi Krishnan, Chief Investment Officer at Birla Sun Life Insurance, joins us on the sidelines of the Edelweiss Infrastructure Conference. Sashi, this is Neeraj here. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining in. Last 30 days, for every penny that the FIs have sold, I've seen equal or more DII buying. What is your stance right now? We are not at the lows, we are off the lows, but we are still significantly off the kind of highs that we were. How are you approaching investing in a market like this right now?
Yeah, Neeraj, if you look at our own portfolios, we are almost fully invested in the market, and we continue to invest incremental flows that we are getting into our equity funds. So from a long-term perspective, I think we're not too worried. We did see a rally, and then we did see a correction that happened over the last couple of days. I think the rally that we saw in the markets from the 8,000 Nifty level was primarily driven by macro news flows. So you had some good news on the rainfall side. You had good news on the the fact that the MSPs weren't as bad as most people thought they would be. The trade deficit was much better. The CPI numbers came out much better. IIP numbers came out much better. And I think markets sort of rallied. So, it was a quick rally last week, and obviously post the rally there will be some corrections. But there are some concerns, that haven't gone away completely. One, obviously, is the fact that we'll have to see what progress happens on the reform front, because I think we'll have the monsoon session in a couple of days, and obviously there are going to be challenges in the monsoon session as we see it now. And some key bills, like for example the the land acquisition bill, the GST, all that's going to come up for discussion, and we'll need to see how that moves. Globally, there are still worries because 30th of June will be when there will be some resolution on the Greece issue. And if that takes time, then I think again there will be worries that money will flow out. The Fed obviously is going to hike rates possibly in December, possibly earlier than December, in September. And whatever happens, whenever they do hike that rate, there will be some volatility in markets. The FIs will take out money and continue to take out money. So I don't think the worst is behind us in many of these issues, and therefore I think markets will be range bound. But I think even in these markets there are opportunities, and we remain fully invested.
By the way, we're trading at the low of the day now, 8389 if I'm not wrong. We've come off quite rapidly, and I think CNX IT is the reason why this is happening. If you pull up the NSE indices, I think it's CNX IT, which is not at the low point of the day, but for the CNX IT, I think we are trading at the low point of the day. 11,203, bring up the CNX IT. Yes, we're trading at the low point of the day. This is the troublemaker right now. Sashi, which brings me to my question. We'll come to the domestic themes. I think the conference also speaks about financing and alternative means of financing for infrastructure. That is the domestic theme. But the export-oriented sectors, there's some bit of chink really in the armor there. Pharma had some problems with US FDA clearances not coming in, and the sector is off its highs. Now IT, which was considered to be a safe haven, 3 quarters in a row, we've seen IT companies, not necessarily the largest, but the mid-sized ones definitely coming out and citing a warning. It may be because cross-currency headwinds, it may have been because of other reasons, but there are warning signals being given. How do you approach these pockets? Let's start with IT.
Yeah, so if you look at IT and pharmaceuticals, I think if you look at the last couple of quarters, some of these sectors, specific companies in these sectors did very well, especially the healthcare space. And I think valuations clearly were a little stretched, and therefore you will find some kind of selling coming into these companies. But wherever we see the quality of earnings not getting so seriously impacted, and consistent quality of earnings, I think there is still opportunity in both the IT and the healthcare space. But there is some kind of rotation that's clearly going to happen, away from some of these, safe havens, some of these, defensives like IT, say healthcare, into, sectors which we do believe will, in the long run, give significantly better alpha. And these will be specific companies, for example, in the infrastructure space. There will be specific companies in the, say, private banking space. And I think you will find this rotation happening, and that could be one of the reasons why you do have a little bit of sell-off in, healthcare and IT.
Yeah, but it's clearly evident out there. Sashi, my question to you is, you give us your basic stance of investing. We've discussed the export-oriented themes. What about the domestic themes right now? Because the revival in the cycle is probably 6 to 9 months away. Maybe the earnings will take 12 months to actually take full force. Do you think the markets recognizes this and will start investing into it in the next 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, I think the market clearly recognizes that earnings will take at least 2 more quarters to recover. And if you look at consensus earnings, growth estimates, people have revised them down to something like a 14% CAGR from the original 18% CAGR. And I think they will continue to watch closely and revise downwards if they think that the recovery isn't quick enough. But I think you are going to have opportunities in, for example, select industrials. You will have opportunities, for example, in the energy space. You will have still have opportunities, for example, in the telecom space. So I think you will find opportunities in a lot of sectors that will be driven by the revival in growth. And I think it is certain that they will, India is going to continue to be one of the, economies that will grow very fast. We're not seeing revival in growth in, say, economies like Russia or Brazil. And once the global, worries, concerning Greece, concerning the Fed rate hike, ease a little bit, I think money will come back into these sectors. And that's, I think, the opportunity because, as domestic investors, if you can get in early enough at reasonable valuations, I think, we can create wealth for our customers and investors.
What else, Sashi? I mean, we talk about how industrials might do well too. And while these are forgotten names right now, I mean, nobody talks about cement. There might be an odd spike the way it is there today. Otherwise, people are not talking about cement. People have quite forgotten the power transmission companies as well. These are all essential components if we are indeed to build this infra bit that the PM was talking about today as well. When do they start participating in the game?
Yeah, I think the infrastructure story obviously is going to be a very big story over the next couple of years. The government is committed in this 12th plan to spend something close to $1 trillion in infrastructure. And most of this will be in my opinion, 3 big sectors. One will be roads, the other will be power, and the third will be urban infrastructure. And I think there are going to be big opportunities in all this, and sectors associated with the roads, for example, or the power sector, or for example, urban infrastructure. So it looks obvious that sectors like cement, sectors like the power transmission and distribution, the capital goods sector, all these will clearly pick up. But the problem is that we are not seeing, quick signs of a recovery. This recovery is going to take time. It's going to take a couple of quarters more. And I think where markets were disappointed is I think most market participants expected that, as soon as the new government came in place, there'll be a lot more action in this sector. The other big problem, obviously, would be finding finances for infrastructure because, obviously, the government has to step up its own spending infrastructure. And we haven't yet seen signs of very big spending coming from the government side, given, their fiscal limitations. So once that gets over, once, they're able to find the resources, I think, this is a sector that will do extremely well. Maybe it's still a year down, but I think it will clearly sort of deliver very, very good returns to investors.
Okay, Sashi, understand we are just running out of our appointment time with you, but much appreciate you taking this small window of and giving our viewers a sense of what is your approach to the markets currently. Really good of you to join us.
Thank you, Neeraj.
That's Sashi Krishnan, 3:10, about the time that we had to thank him. So that's the view of Birla Sun Life. Now, what else is the market up to? As we said, we're at the low point of the day. Just before we get you an exclusive piece of news,